Welcome back to Econline, everyone. This video is going to be about economies of scale and marginal returns. And those are concepts that test your ability to distinguish between variable and fixed costs. So let's start off by taking a look at this question here. If a company triples its plant size and its average cost decreases, then the firm is necessarily experiencing, and then we have our answers here. And you'll notice right away that the two answers really have the most to do with economies of scale and marginal returns. So those are the things that they're asking us to look at. Now let's take a look at how we could answer this question. And I would start off always by drawing the graph for a typical firm in a competitive market. So we have quantity and we have price. And we'll draw the marginal cost curve. And we will draw average total cost. And I marked, as you'll notice, efficient scale right here, because that is where the firm is minimizing cost. Now let's come back to our question, and what we're going to do is just label different parts of this graph with the sections of the question that it's referring to. Alright, so we're talking about tripling plant size and average cost decreases. So that's the first thing we want to find on the graph. Where is average cost decreasing? Well, as I take a look in the graph, we can see that average cost decreases in this range right here. This is where we see average costs going down. So it says the firm is then necessarily experiencing, and we have economies of scale, diseconomies of scale, and then the marginal returns. All right, well, as you know, when average cost is decreasing, this is just a matter of definition, right? When the firm is expanding its operations, but the costs are going down, then we know right off the bat that that is economies of scale. So we can come back here and eliminate answer choice number 1, right? You can't be diseconomies of scale. So it could be economies of scale, and then we still have to deal with this marginal returns issue. So we've located the spot on our graph. Again, this is where we are reaching, or where we have economies of scale as we increase our factory size. So we know that the firm is somewhere in this part of the graph. Now what happens in terms of marginal returns? Well, to find marginal returns, you have to take a look at the marginal cost curve, which, remember, and I'll just draw a quick example here, that the marginal cost curve is an inverse of the production function. So we had output and like labor. And notice that in this part of the graph, or what we'll discuss here, is that early on we have increasing returns to scale, then we have decreasing returns to scale, and then eventually we have negative returns to scale. And our marginal cost curve is just the mirror image of it. So you notice that you're going to see the same shape here, also over here. So if we were to line these up, it's not a perfect mirror image. The first thing what we'll say is that this range right here is our increasing returns. This would be our decreasing returns, and these are our negative returns. What are these associated with on the marginal cost curve? These are our increasing returns to scale, because here we're adding more but cost is going down. And then these are decreasing returns to scale. And you may remember that we really would never have negative returns to scale, because that would involve the firm basically increasing its cost but producing less. So we're not going to get into that. So we have our original. Here is where average total cost is decreasing. And while average total cost is decreasing, we can see that for part of the time we have increasing returns to scale, or increasing marginal returns. And then for part of the time we have decreasing marginal returns. So it can't be, for that reason then, answers B or C, and then also for that reason D. So although early on we came to the conclusion that we were definitely dealing with economies of scale, we still had to go through the process of eliminating our other answer choices before we could know for sure. Again, let's come back to the basic review here, that the strategy for this is to first diagram the situation. So we're going to start off by just drawing our firm. We find that point in the graph that they're discussing when the firm is decreasing its average cost, and then take a look at what their production function looks like in that range. So again, it's also part of this is understanding that the average total cost curve is a combination of fixed and variable costs in the short run, and in the long run, since all costs are variable, we really just don't distinguish between fixed and variable costs. The marginal cost curve deals specifically with variable costs because we're talking about the law of variable proportion, coming back to the production function about the as you vary the input, we're also going to vary the output. But that's not necessarily the case as we deal with a fixed cost. Fixed costs we just buy and they stay the same no matter how much we produce, at least over that relevant range.